That first line says it all. That's for taking my wife and our life savings. The first thing you should know about my wife Sarah is she's always been sharper than me. The second thing is she believed I was too dim to catch what she was doing behind my back. The third thing, she was dead wrong. My name's Dave Sullivan, 43, owner of Sullivan Construction. Until 3 weeks ago I thought our marriage was all right. Yes, Sarah put in long hours at St. Mary's Hospital and had worked her way up to assistant administrator. Yes, we hadn't been intimate in months. After 15 years I told myself those things happen. You settle into rhythms, you get comfortable, you trust one another. Turns out trust is like a house on rotten footings. It looks sturdy until one good tremor and everything collapses. The tremor hit on a Tuesday night when I came home from a job, coated in drywall dust, looking forward to a beer and maybe some baseball. Sarah was in the kitchen on the phone wearing that ridiculous nun outfit from last Halloween. I'm not naturally suspicious. I build and fix things with my hands, but the way she laughed made my skin crawl. "Oh, Sister Mary Catherine's been very naughty," she purred into the phone, sliding into that sultry register I hadn't heard aimed at me in years. Maybe she needs some special confession time, I thought. I froze in the doorway, a lost figure in my work clothes, watching my wife of 15 years flirt with someone who wasn't me. She spun in that black and white habit like she was auditioning for something obscene, utterly unaware I was there. "The conference runs through Friday," she said. "Plenty of time for private consultations." Funny thing, Sarah had been saying conference for months now. Her medical conferences stretched back almost a year. Funny how she never brought home pamphlets or mentioned anything she'd learned. Funnier how she always returned looking like she'd spent the weekend at a spa instead of attending hospital admin lectures. That's when I saw the condom box by her purse. Trojans. Economy size. We hadn't used condoms since our second year of marriage. Not since she started the pill, and yet there it was on the counter like a neon sign advertising Secret Life. She finished the call and finally saw me. "Oh, Dave, you're home early," she said, shoving the box into her purse, but not quickly enough for me not to see. "I was just confirming travel arrangements for tomorrow's conference," she lied. The nun costume suddenly explained away. "I'm trying it on for next weekend's hospital costume party. You know how medical people love themes." I played the fool. "Sure thing, honey. Have fun at your conference." But while she climbed the stairs to pack, I made a choice that would change everything. I took out my old pocket knife, the one I'd carried 2 decades to job sites, and very carefully made a tiny hole in every condom wrapper. Not big gashes, just pinpricks you wouldn't notice unless you were looking close. "Let's see if the saints are watching, honey," I muttered as I resealed the box. The next morning she kissed me like the ever-loving wife, wheeled her suitcase to the car and said, "I'll be back Sunday evening. Try not to burn the house down while I'm gone." I watched her pack enough luggage for a month-long holiday, not a 3-day conference, and drove off. I finished my coffee and started to plan. I've built houses, additions, custom cabinets my whole life. I know how things are put together and, more importantly, how to take them apart once I learn the frame is rotten. My marriage had been erected on lies, and it was demolition time. First, evidence. Sarah thought she was slick, a spy covering tracks, but 15 years together had made her sloppy. She forgot I'd installed our wireless router, set up our accounts, and had access to everything in the house. I started with her laptop, the work machine. Her password wasn't hard. Her maiden name plus the year we married. Her email was spotless, as you'd expect. Too clever to use her main account for dirty business. Then I remembered the travel-size shampoo I'd found months ago in her gym bag. Odd because she used expensive salon stuff. I found that bottle tucked behind moisturizers in the bathroom cabinet and noticed it was heavier than it should be. Unscrewing the bottom, a tiny flip phone tumbled into my hand. Jackpot. An ancient pay-as-you-go burner. No contract, no bills, no trace. She'd planned this like a military operation. I powered it up and read. The contact was saved as Dr. Feelgood. Cute. The timestamps showed it had been going on almost 8 months. The texts were filthy and explicit, leaving zero doubt what she did on those conferences. "Can't wait to see you in your nurse outfit," one read. "I've been a very bad patient," Sarah replied. "Sister Mary Catherine needs some bedside practice." "Bring the handcuffs from your sales kit," he wrote. Sales kit? That narrowed it. Sarah worked at a hospital, and the only salespeople who frequented hospitals were pharmaceutical reps. I dug deeper through the messages until I found a clue. Tommy says the new heart medication samples came in. Perfect excuse to visit your floor tomorrow. Tommy Patterson, 38, pharmaceutical rep for MedCorp Industries, married to Linda with 2 kids, living in Meadowbrook, about 10 miles away. Manners and suits and cologne that cost more than my boots. I'd met that type before at fundraisers. All flash, little substance. Which Tommy, though? I spent hours combing the burner for details. It wasn't just a fling. Pet names, inside jokes, plans for a life that didn't include me. The clincher was a text from 2 weeks ago. Dave's so clueless, he thanked me for working late last night. By Christmas we'll have enough saved to make our move. He'll never see it coming. Our move. Our savings. The account I'd been stuffing cash into for 15 years, working overtime, weekends, building our nest egg. They were planning to drain it and run. I sat at the kitchen table in yesterday's work clothes, the phone heavy in my hand, anger like ice and fire in my chest. Not heartbreak anymore. I'd passed that. This was focused rage, the kind that raises buildings and tears them down. Sarah had underestimated me, thought I was some knuckle-dragging contractor who wouldn't notice. That had been her mistake. I fired up my laptop and started digging. If Tommy was a farmer rep visiting St. Mary's, there would be records, visitor logs, schedules, company rosters. 3 hours and several calls to friends later, I had my answer. Tommy Patterson, MedCorp rep, Meadowbrook. I typed from Sarah's burner. Congratulations, Tommy. Hope you're ready to be a daddy. His reply arrived in minutes. What are you talking about? We've been careful. Careful doesn't always work, I wrote back. Maybe we should meet to discuss our options. I could almost hear him sweat through the texts. Perfect. Let him panic. But that was appetizer. The main course would be better. I spent the weekend building my case. I printed every incriminating text from the burner and arranged them chronologically. Then I canvassed Tommy Patterson's life. His house screamed success. A McMansion with a circular drive and a manicured lawn. A BMW parked like a trophy. I watched routine Saturday morning, saw Linda shuttling kids in a minivan, and decided I didn't want to wreck innocent lives if I could avoid it. Collateral damage would happen, but I'm no monster. Sunday evening, Sarah returned from her conference, looking rested and satisfied. She kissed my cheek and asked about my weekend like nothing was wrong. Pretty quiet, I said. Got some work done. How was the conference? I asked. Oh, same old presentations about hospital efficiency and patient care, she lied. I learned a few techniques for improving staff morale. She was a convincing liar. I stayed calm. Timing mattered. Monday I waited an hour after she left and drove to St. Mary's. I knew the hospital. I'd done maintenance there, installed cameras, rewired circuits. The staff saw me as Sarah's reliable contractor. In the parking lot I found Tommy loading sample cases into his BMW. Exactly what I imagined. Tall, bronzed, in a suit that probably cost more than I make in a month. A smile manufactured by good genes and better dentistry. I walked up like I belonged. Dave Sullivan, I said. He blinked. Do we know each other? I think we have a mutual interest to discuss, I told him, and watched color drain from his face. He stammered denial. I handed him a printout of his raunchiest exchanges with Sarah. Interesting reading, I said. I especially liked the part about the handcuffs. He looked around, suddenly nervous. We should talk somewhere private. No need, I said. I thought Linda might be interested in your reading habits. I walked to my truck and left him standing in the lot, the evidence in his hands, sweating through his suit. The seed was planted. Now it needed watering. That night I called the Patterson house. Linda answered on the third ring. Mrs. Patterson, this is Dave Sullivan from Sullivan Construction. I found some personal items that might belong to your husband. He left them at a job site. I hinted, personal items, some clothing, and things that looked like they might be important to him. Where did you find these? She asked. I gave the address of a seedy motel on the edge of town, the kind that rents by the hour and doesn't ask names. Room 237. The manager, when asked, had given Tommy's name on the registration. Thank you for calling, Mr. Sullivan. she said. Then the line went dead. I sat back and opened a beer. Let the games begin. Tuesday morning, Tommy called in sick. Interesting, since I'd seen him at the hospital the day before. Sarah came home quiet, picking at her food and checking her phone like she'd swallowed a bug. Everything okay at the hospital? I asked. Fine, just staffing issues, she mumbled, avoiding my eyes. Wednesday, things exploded. Her phone rang during dinner and I heard furious shouting even though she answered on the first ring and left the room. No, Linda, you don't understand, I heard her shout from the hallway. Linda had apparently done her own digging and found Sarah's number. The call was brief and brutal. Sarah returned pale and shaken. Work emergency, she lied, though her hands trembled. Thursday afternoon, while I was in my workshop sharpening blades, Linda Patterson knocked at my back door. Smaller up close, but fierce, steel behind her eyes. Mr. Sullivan. I'm Linda Patterson. We need to talk. I gave her a folding chair and let her lead. My husband's been having an affair with your wife, she said flatly. I found hotel receipts, photos, texts. I nodded. I know. I found out a few days ago. How long? She demanded. About 8 months, I told her. She tightened her jaw. He thinks I don't notice late nights, new cologne, guarding his phone. What do you want to do? She asked. Destroy them both, she said. That was my language. Linda had access to Tommy's company phone and laptop through their family plan. While he was at work Friday, she forwarded the entire thread with Sarah to his boss at MedCorp and expressed concern about misuse of company time and equipment. By noon, Tommy was fired. I anonymously mailed copies of Sarah's most damning messages to her supervisor at the hospital with a note about inappropriate personal communications on company time. And then came the nuclear option. Friday night, Sarah claimed to be working late. I followed her from the hospital to the Sleepy Inn, the same motel address I'd given Linda. She pulled up next to Tommy's BMW and they vanished into room 237. I waited an hour, then moved. The motel door was thin, but I didn't need brute force. I had a cordless drill, heavy chain, and a padlock in my truck. In less than 2 minutes, I drilled holes through the doorframe and chained it from the outside so the room was sealed except for a bathroom window too small for either of them to crawl through. Then I made calls. First to Linda. They're here. Room 237. Bring your camera. Next to the Sleepy Inn front desk. There's a disturbance in room 237. Sounds like a fight. You might want to check on them. Then to Sarah's sister Beth, who never liked me much. Beth, it's Dave. Sarah's in room 237 at the Sleepy Inn. You should see this. Then to Tommy's brother Mike. This is Dave Sullivan. Tommy's in some trouble at the Sleepy Inn. By the time I finished, muffled shouting came from behind the door as Tommy and Sarah tugged and cursed at the chain. Linda pulled in first, minivan squealing to a stop, camera in hand and a look made for war. The motel manager strolled over with his master key, unimpressed. What's going on? He asked. Family emergency, Linda said sweetly. My husband's in that room with his girlfriend. I need to document it for my divorce attorney. He eyed the chain, looked at me, then looked at Linda. I could call the cops, he said. You could, I replied. Or you could let a lady handle her business and avoid police cars in your lot on a Friday night. He thought 3 seconds. Then Linda used the key to unlock the practice chain I'd given her, flung the door open, and the scene inside was exactly what I'd hoped for and more. Sarah was scrambling into her nurse costume while Tommy scrambled for his pants, both frozen like animals in headlights. Smile for the camera, honey, Linda said, snapping photo after. That first sentence says it all. That's for stealing my wife and our savings. You need to know 3 things about my wife Sarah. First, she's always been sharper than me. Second, she believed I was too dense to catch what she was doing behind my back. And third, she was utterly wrong. I'm Dave Sullivan, 43, owner of Sullivan Construction, and until 3 weeks ago I thought our marriage was solid. Sure, Sarah pulled long shifts at St. Mary's Hospital and had climbed to assistant administrator. And sure, we hadn't been intimate in months. After 15 years you tell yourself those things happen. You settle into routines, get comfortable, and trust each other. Turns out trust is like a house on rotten footings. It looks fine until one good shake and everything falls apart. That shake came on a Tuesday night when I dragged home from a job, coated in drywall dust, craving a beer and maybe a baseball game. Sarah was in the kitchen on the phone, wearing that ridiculous nun costume from last Halloween, and while I'm not a suspicious man by nature, I build and fix things with my hands. The way she laughed crawled under my skin. "Oh, Sister Mary Catherine's been very naughty," she cooed, sliding into a tone I hadn't heard aimed at me in years. Maybe she needs some special confession time, I thought, and froze in the doorway, invisible in my work clothes, watching my wife flirt with someone who wasn't me. She twirled in that black and white habit like she was auditioning for an adult scene, oblivious to my presence. "The conference runs through Friday," she told the person on the line. "Plenty of time for private consultations." Funny thing, Sarah's conferences had been happening for nearly a year. Funny how she never brought back brochures or mentioned what she'd learned. And funnier how she always came home looking like she'd been pampered at a spa rather than sitting in hospital administration lectures. That's when I saw the condom box by her purse. Trojans, economy size. Something we hadn't used since our second year of marriage, back before she took the pill. There it was, sitting on the counter like a neon sign advertising her extracurricular life. She finished the call and noticed me. "Oh, Dave, you're home early," she said, stuffing the box into her purse, but not quick enough for me to catch a look. "I was just confirming travel arrangements for tomorrow's conference," she lied, explaining the nun costume away as something she was trying on for an upcoming hospital theme party. I played the clueless husband. "Sure thing, honey, have fun at your conference." But while she went upstairs to pack, I made a choice that would change everything. I pulled my old pocket knife, the one I'd carried on job sites for 20 years, and carefully made a tiny pinprick in every condom wrapper in that box, small enough to be invisible unless you inspected closely. "Let's see if the saints are watching, honey," I muttered as I resealed the box. The next morning she kissed me goodbye like the loving wife she pretended to be, wheeled her suitcase to the car and said she'd be back Sunday evening, telling me not to burn the house down while she was gone. I watched her drive off with luggage fit for a month-long trip rather than a 3-day conference, finished my coffee and started planning. I've spent my life building houses, additions and custom cabinets. I know how structures go together and, crucially, how to take them apart when the frame is rotten. My marriage had been built on deception, and it was demolition time. First I needed evidence. Sarah thought she'd been clever, hiding tracks like a spy, but 15 years of marriage made her sloppy. She'd forgotten I'd set up the wireless router, created our accounts and had access to everything in the house. I started with her laptop. Her password wasn't hard. Her maiden name plus the year we married, and her email was spotless, unsurprising given how careful she was with main accounts. Then I remembered the travel-size shampoo bottle I'd found months earlier in her gym bag. Odd because she used expensive salon stuff, and when I found it hidden behind moisturizers in the bathroom cabinet and opened the bottom, a small flip phone tumbled into my hand. Jackpot. A pay-as-you-go burner. No bills, no contracts, no digital footprint. She'd planned this like a military operation. I powered it up and scrolled through messages. The contact was saved as Dr. Feelgood, and the timestamps showed. Nearly 8 months of messages. Filthy, explicit, and leaving no doubt what she'd been doing during her conferences. "Can't wait to see you in your nurse outfit," read one. "I've been a very bad patient," Sarah replied. "Sister Mary Catherine needs to practice her bedside manner." "Bring the handcuffs from your sales kit," came another. Sales kit narrowed things down. Hospital plus sales kit equals pharmaceutical rep. I dug through messages and found a clear clue. "Tommy says the new heart medication samples came in. Perfect excuse to visit your floor tomorrow." Tommy. A little digging and 3 hours of calls to friends around town gave me a name. Tommy Patterson, 38, pharmaceutical sales rep for MedCorp Industries, married to Linda with 2 kids, living in the upscale Meadowbrook development about 10 miles away. Flashy enough to charm hospital staff, cologne that cost more than my work boots, the kind of man I'd met at fundraisers. Lots of flash, no substance. I scrolled through the burner and the picture that formed made my stomach drop. Pet names, inside jokes, future plans that excluded me. The clincher was a message from 2 weeks ago. "Dave's so clueless. He actually thanked me for working late last night. By Christmas we'll have enough saved to make our move. He'll never see it coming. Our move. Our savings." The account I'd poured overtime and weekend work into for 15 years. They intended to clean me out and run. I sat there in my kitchen in yesterday's work clothes, holding the evidence of my wife's betrayal, and something cold and intense settled in me. Not heartbreak, I was beyond that. This was fury, focused and industrious, the kind that builds and destroys. Sarah thought I was some knuckle-dragging contractor who wouldn't notice. She'd underestimated me, and that would be her fatal mistake. I fired up my laptop and traced Tommy's paper trail. Hospital visitor logs, sales call schedules, company rosters, everything I could to identify him. When I had his name, I sent a message from Sarah's burner. "Congratulations, Tommy. Hope you're ready to be a daddy." His reply came fast. "What are you talking about? We've been careful." "Careful doesn't always work," I typed back. "Maybe we should meet to discuss our options." I could almost hear his panic through the texts. Perfect. Let him sweat. But that was just the appetizer. I spent the weekend building my dossier, printed every incriminating message from the burner, organized them chronologically, then I did reconnaissance on Tommy's life. His house was a McMansion with a circular drive and a manicured lawn, his BMW parked like a trophy. I watched routines, noted Linda shuttling kids around in a minivan, and decided I didn't want to wreck innocent lives if I could avoid it. Collateral damage was inevitable, but I'm no monster. Sunday evening, Sarah returned from her conference, looking relaxed. She kissed my cheek and asked about my weekend as if nothing had shifted. "Pretty quiet," I said. "Got some work done." "How was the conference?" I asked. "Oh, same old presentations about hospital efficiency and patient care," she lied. "Learned some techniques for improving staff morale." She was a convincing liar, and I kept calm. The timing had to be perfect. Monday morning, after she left for work, I drove to St. Mary's, where I'd done maintenance over the years and was known as Sarah's reliable contractor. In the parking lot, I found Tommy loading sample cases into his BMW. Tall, artificially tanned, in an expensive suit, a smile bred by good genes and better dentistry. I walked up like I belonged. "Dave Sullivan," I told him. He blinked, then stammered. I handed him a printout of his raunchiest texts with Sarah. "Interesting reading," I said. "I especially like the part about the handcuffs." He scrambled for excuses. "We should talk somewhere private." "No need," I said. "I thought Linda might be interested in your reading habits." I walked back to my truck and left him standing there, sweating through his suit. The seed was planted. That night I called the Patterson house. Linda picked up on the third ring. "Mrs. Patterson, this is Dave Sullivan from Sullivan Construction. I found some personal items that might belong to your husband." I hinted at clothing and other items that might be important and gave her the address of a seedy motel on the outskirts of town, the kind that rents rooms by the hour. I told her room 237 was registered in Tommy's name. "Thank you for calling, Mr. Sullivan," she said, and the line went dead. I cracked a beer and waited. Tuesday, Tommy called in sick. Odd, since I'd seen him at the hospital the day before, and Sarah came home quiet, picking at food and checking her phone like something was unraveling. "Everything okay at the hospital?" I asked. "Fine, just staffing issues," she mumbled, eyes averted. Wednesday, her phone rang during dinner and I heard shouting through the handset. She answered and immediately left the room. "No, Linda, you don't understand," I heard her roar from the hallway. Linda had tracked Sarah down and confronted her. After a brief, heated call, Sarah returned shaking. "Work emergency," she lied. Thursday afternoon, Linda knocked on my back door while I sharpened saw blades in the workshop. Smaller up close than I'd imagined, but with steel behind her eyes, she introduced herself and wasted no time. "My husband's been having an affair with your wife. I found hotel receipts, photos, texts." I told her I already knew. "How long?" she asked. "About 8 months," I said. She tightened her jaw. "He thinks I don't notice late nights, new cologne, guarding his phone." "What do you want to do?" she asked. "Destroy them both," she said. That was my language. Linda had access to Tommy's company phone and laptop through their family plan, and while he was at work on Friday, she forwarded their entire thread to his boss at MedCorp with a note about personal use of company resources. By noon, Tommy was fired. I anonymously mailed copies of Sarah's most damning messages to her supervisor at the hospital with a note about inappropriate use of hospital resources for personal communications during work hours. Then came the nuclear option. Friday night, Sarah claimed to be working late. I followed her from the hospital to the Sleepy Inn, the same motel I'd tipped Linda about. She parked beside Tommy's BMW and they went into room 237. I waited an hour, then moved. The motel room door was hollow core thin, but I didn't need brute force. I had tools, a cordless drill, a length of heavy chain, and a padlock. In under 2 minutes I drilled holes in the doorframe and chained it shut from the outside, locking them in with only a bathroom window too small to crawl through. Then I made the calls. "Linda, They're here. Room 237. Bring your camera. The motel front desk. There's a disturbance in room 237. Sounds like a fight. Sarah's sister Beth. Sarah's in room 237 at the Sleepy Inn. You should see this. Tommy's brother Mike. Tommy's in some trouble at the Sleepy Inn. Muffled shouting came from inside as Tommy and Sarah pulled at the door. Linda pulled up first with a camera and a look for war, and the motel manager ambled over with his master key, unimpressed. "What's going on?" he asked. Linda sweetly explained it was a family emergency and she needed to document it for a divorce attorney. After a brief exchange about calling the police, she used the practice chain I'd given her to unlock the door and fling it open. Inside, the sight was everything I'd hoped for and more. Sarah scrambling into her nurse costume, Tommy fumbling for pants, both frozen like deer in headlights. "Smile for the camera, honey," Linda said, snapping photo after photo. "These are going to look great in court." "Linda, wait," Tommy started, but she cut him off cold. 15 years of marriage, Tommy. 15 years, 2 kids. And this is how you repay me, sneaking off with some hospital administrator in a cheap motel room? Sarah suddenly found a voice. "You don't understand the situation." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Linda replied. "You're both cheating liars who got caught. Now stand up straight and smile. The judge is going to love these." By then Beth had arrived along with Tommy's brother Mike, and the motel parking lot had become a family circus from hell. Beth started screaming at Sarah about family values and embarrassing the clan while Mike tried to calm people down and wrestle his brother into pants. I hung back and watched the chaos unfold with a deep satisfaction I hadn't expected. They weren't just caught, they were publicly humiliated, exposed to their families, dignity stripped along with their clothes. But I wasn't finished. Saturday morning I drove to the MedCorp office where Tommy's company car sat and his BMW remained locked. Windows cracked an inch, just enough. I had a can of expanding foam insulation in my truck, the contractor stuff that expands massively and hardens like concrete. I shoved the nozzle through the small gap and filled the interior of his BMW. Seats, dash, steering wheel, gear shift, burying everything under 3 feet of hardened foam. Tommy's pretty boy car was transformed into a ruined sculpture. That afternoon Sarah came home from another emergency meeting at the hospital and found all her things neatly stacked on the front lawn in cardboard boxes. Clothing, books, cosmetics, every personal item she'd accumulated during our marriage, even the nun costume in its dry cleaning bag. "Dave, what is this?" she demanded as she marched to the porch where I sat with a beer. "Spring cleaning," I said. "Figured you might want your stuff since you'll be moving in with Tommy soon." "You can't do this. This is my house too." "Actually, I can. The house is in my name only. I bought it before we were married and the deed never changed. Legally, you're a guest and I'm asking you to leave." Her face went through several shades. "This is ridiculous. We can work this out." "Work what out?" I asked. "The part where you were stealing money from our account to fund your love nest, or the part where you planned to disappear with our savings?" She tried to argue, but I held up the printed messages from her burner. "I've got documentation, Sarah. Every message, every plan, every dirty detail. Want to take this to court? We can. I don't think you'll like the outcome." The fight left her then. She looked at the boxes on the lawn and at me on the porch, calm as a man who knew his cards. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked. "That's not my problem anymore," I said. "Maybe Tommy has room in his foam-filled car." She loaded her boxes into her Honda without another word, making trips between car and lawn while neighbors peered from windows and pretended to tend gardens but clearly eavesdropping. As she drove away, Mrs. Henderson from next door came over with a casserole dish. "Dave, honey, I made too much tuna noodle casserole. Thought you might want some company." Mrs. Henderson had lived next door for 12 years, and this was the first time she'd offered to share a meal. The neighborhood gossip network had decided I was the wrong party deserving sympathy. "That girl never deserved you," she murmured, patting my arm. Sunday brought the finale. Linda called early. Tommy had been trying to reach Sarah all weekend, desperate to plan their next move. "What do you want to do?" she asked. I told her I wanted to give them one last chance to be together, and arranged a meeting at the Sleepy Inn under different terms. I told Sarah Tommy wanted to meet to plan their escape. Linda had convinced Tommy to meet under the pretense of discussing divorce terms. They showed up within minutes of each other looking ragged and desperate, Tommy driving his brother's car since the BMW was foam-tombed, and I'd reserved room 237 and chained the door once they were inside. But this time, instead of family, the audience was very different. I'd called Janet Murphy, head administrator at St. Mary's, suggesting she might want to see evidence of an employee's unprofessional conduct. I'd mailed Tommy's messages to Robert Hayes at MedCorp's corporate office, and I'd tipped Channel 7 News with an anonymous tip about corruption in the local medical community. Possible insurance fraud involving hospital administrators and pharmaceutical reps. They loved it. By the time I unlocked the chain, there were cameras rolling and notebooks out. Tommy and Sarah stumbled from that motel room to find their professional lives waiting in the parking lot. A Channel 7 reporter shoved a microphone at Tommy. "Is it true you used your position as a pharmaceutical representative to engage in kickback schemes with hospital personnel?" He looked like he might vomit and said nothing. "Miss Sullivan, how do you respond to allegations you traded hospital contracts for personal favors?" Sarah tried to push past the cameras, flustered and insisting she'd call her lawyer, but the damage was done. The story ran that night. Local hospital administrator and pharmaceutical rep caught in a corruption scandal, the kind of salacious detail that ensured it would spread to other outlets. Monday morning, Sarah was fired from St. Mary's. Tommy was blacklisted from the industry. Their reputations evaporated, their personal lives lay in ruins, and their plans to run off together dissolved like morning fog. I was in my workshop sharpening chisels when Sarah came to the door one last time. She looked years older, the past week having aged her 5 years. "I hope you're satisfied," she said. "Pretty much," I replied at the workbench. "You destroyed everything. My job, my reputation, my future." "I didn't destroy anything," I told her. "I just made sure everyone could see what you'd built for yourself." She cried then, real tears instead of the manipulative ones she used to get her way. "We could have worked this out," she said, counseling, trying to save our marriage. "With what?" I asked. "The money you stole, the trust you broke, the respect you traded for a cheap thrill with a pharmaceutical rep?" "It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You chose Tommy over me, lies over truth, selfishness over commitment. I just made sure you lived with the consequences." She wiped her eyes and left, pausing at the workshop door to tell me I used to be a good man. "I still am," I said. "I just stopped being a stupid one." After she shut the door, I sat in the quiet of my workshop among the tools of my trade and took stock. The house was mine, free and clear. The business was solid with enough work to keep me busy all winter. My standing in the community was intact, maybe even improved now that word had spread I'd been the wrong party. Tommy and Sarah had, by their own designs, found each other. Both unemployed, disgraced, dependent on one another in ways neither planned. From the Gossip Network, I learned they'd moved into a little studio across town and were working retail at a discount store trying to rebuild. Linda got her divorce and most of Tommy's assets plus a comfortable settlement. The kids, apparently relieved to be rid of their father's lies, were doing fine. As for me, I was back where I started in my workshop doing honest, lasting work. Only now I knew the value of a solid foundation and I wouldn't settle for anything less. I deleted the photos I'd taken, erased the evidence I'd collected and threw Sarah's burner in the trash. The war was over and I'd won. Some will say my revenge was excessive, too thorough, too devastating. But those people never had someone they trusted betray their entire life, never discovered their marriage was a lie and their savings siphoned off for a cheap motel fling. I'd supported her career, sacrificed my comfort, loved her unconditionally for 15 years, and she'd planned to disappear with another man. So yeah, I went nuclear. I scorched the earth so nothing could grow there again, but I did it cleanly, legally and completely. No one was physically harmed, no laws broken, and justice was served with a precision a master carpenter would respect. Sarah thought I was too stupid to see her game. She was wrong about that, like she was wrong about everything else. Sometimes the underdog wins, sometimes the smart money loses, and sometimes a simple contractor with calloused hands and a high school education can outmaneuver a hospital administrator and a pharmaceutical rep so thoroughly they never see it coming. The house settled into a silence it hadn't known in months. I cracked open a beer, put on the baseball game and sank into my recliner. Tomorrow I'd start framing the Hendersons' new edition. Good, honest work that would last decades. But tonight I was going to sit and enjoy the quiet, the satisfaction, and the knowledge that the good guys sometimes do win, especially when they use the right tools for the job.